Hi everyone, welcome back. I just checked that previous video to make sure it had sound and everything was cool. So I just heard the very beginning, and I caught one thing that I'd like to clarify or correct. When we were talking about marginal utility per dollar or bang for your buck, I gave the example about the garage full of Porsches and how I don't have a garage full of Porsches. I said something that's not quite correct. I said that my Honda gives me more marginal utility per dollar. It would be more correct to say that I maximize my total utility by keeping my Honda and a lot of other things that give me a lot of marginal utility per lot of marginal utility per dollar as well. So if I were to buy the Porsche, I might get a lot of bang for my buck, even with the very high price tag from the Porsche. But the opportunity cost of that, the marginal utility per dollar for all the things I would have to give up, like my house and good food and lots of other things, that is too high, right? So my total utility would go down in that situation. It's not necessarily the case that my bang for my buck is necessarily higher with the Honda than it is with the Porsche, but it is true that I maximize my total utility by considering both the bang for your buck and the ultimate budget constraint. So it's a very small point. I don't think it will throw anyone off, but as soon as I heard it, I thought I better clarify that. So we've been looking at this rule of equal margin utility per dollar spent. We looked at this example with pizza and Pepsi. I want to do it again, but we're going to change the price. And so we're going to look at the effects of a price change here. So we still have $10 to spend, right? So our budget is the same. And the price of Pepsi is still $1 per can, but pizza is now on sale. And pizza is also $1 per slice. I sort of wrote right through the words there, didn't I? Let's try this again. So basically, pizza and Pepsi both cost the same thing. Oh, let's pick green this time. So what does that mean then? Marginal utility per dollar is going to be the marginal utility of pizza divided by the price of pizza, which is $1, which means everything in this column right here is going to be the same as the marginal utility column. Right? And since Pepsi is also $1, the same thing over here, right? So this column will look just like the marginal utility column next to it. So we can actually skip to the chase, right? And just look at this first column of numbers. Feel free to rewrite it and copy down the numbers exactly, because it's this one, 20 divided by 1, 16 divided by 1, 12 divided by 1. I'm just going to use this first column. So I still have $10 to spend, but everything is just like happy hour at the pizza shop, right? Everything is $1. So what am I going to buy first, a slice of pizza or a Pepsi? And then we'll keep track of how much I've spent up here in the corner. Well, first I'm going to buy a slice of pizza because that gives me 20 units of happiness, and I spend $1. And what do I buy next? Well, the second slice of pizza gives me 16. The first Pepsi gives me 9. It looks like a second slice of pizza. And there's another $1. We'll just do a tally right now. And then what do I buy next? Probably the third slice of pizza, because 12 is greater than 9. Right? So there's $3. Man, I'm getting thirsty. Right? That looks like the fourth slice of pizza would give me 8 units of happiness. The first Pepsi would give me 9. So what are you going to buy here? Well, you're going to buy a Pepsi, right? So we spend $1, buy our first Pepsi. What are you going to buy next, pizza or Pepsi? Well, it looks like the marginal utility from the fourth slice of pizza, which is 8, is exactly the same as the marginal utility from the second Pepsi. So you could buy either one, and right after that you'd buy the other one. Right? So since we've only spent $4, it means we still have 6 left. We're ultimately going to buy both, right? 3, 4, 5, 6. Now we're at $6. What are you going to buy next? Well, boy, I've had 4 slices of pizza, so the Pepsi is starting to go down a little better, right? That sweet, bubbly taste. I'm going to have another Pepsi because 7 is greater than 4. Spend $1 there. And then I'm going to have another Pepsi because 6 is greater than 4. Now I'm at $8. And then What's next? A slice of pizza at 4 or a Pepsi at 5? Well, the Pepsi is better, right? That gives me another unit of marginal utility per dollar. And now I've spent $9, right? I'm at 9, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yep, that's right. So I have $1 left. What am I going to buy, the pizza or the Pepsi? Well, either one, right? The marginal utility per dollar is the same. So I'm going to buy one or the other, but I can't buy both. I'd like to buy both, right? And then my marginal utility per dollar would be exactly equal, but I can't because at that point I've spent all $10. Now, in a theoretical sense, you'd buy half of each. You'd buy half a slice of pizza and half a can of Pepsi, and then your marginal utility per dollar would be exactly equal. In the real world, the pizza shops are not keen on that, right? They don't usually cut the slices in half and give you a fraction of it because that's how much money you have. So at this point, we're going to have either, let's see, 4 and 6 or 5 and 5, right? Either I get 5 slices of pizza and 5 Pepsis, or, but it's like this last is one or the other, or I get 4 and 6. So either one of those would give me the same total utility. Either one of those would leave me with marginal utility per dollar about equal, but not exactly. To get exactly theoretically equal, I'd have to buy half a slice of pizza and half a Pepsi. That would work in theory and not in the real world. So that's why when I drew this equal marginal utility per dollar spent, that's why I used the squiggly equal sign, the approximately equal to, rather than the straight up equal to. Because in theory, you would equalize them exactly. In the real world, sometimes our consumption is a little lumpy, and so we end up approximating. Now, what happened when the price changed? Right, so now you can, hopefully you can do this. I can make sure you have some examples in the homework to practice this, but you can work it out. But I want to say, what happens when the price of one of those goods changes? Well, we can look at what happened. We would have originally, when the prices were $2 a slice and $1 a can, we bought 3 slices of pizza. After the price changed, we would buy either 4 or 5. But what about Pepsi? The price of Pepsi stayed the same at $1. Originally, we would have bought 4. Now we would have bought 5 or 6. So what explains that? Well, there are 2 things going on here, 2 effects from the change of a price. So, so when the price of one good, of something you buy, changes, there are these 2 separate effects. One is the substitution effect. The substitution effect says you substitute away from things that are relatively more expensive and toward things or goods, services that are relatively cheaper. Notice we said relatively more expensive and relatively cheaper. So tuck that away. And we'll talk about the income effect as well. But this relatively more expensive, this is important. Right? We're going to look at how the price changed, because the price of pizza was originally $2, right? And then the price of pizza went down to $1. The price of Pepsi was originally $1, and it remained at $1. So it didn't, in nominal terms or actual terms, change. Did the price of Pepsi change in relative terms? That's the question. But let's also get the definition of the other effect, and then we'll look at them both. Let's change it up to a different color here. The income effect is basically when the price of something you buy, I'm going to say the price of something, a good or service that you purchase, right, goes down, you are we're going to add a couple other things in here as well. So that's why I'm highlighting some things. When the price of something you buy normally, so that's a good or service you purchase regularly, goes down, you are effectively richer. When you're effectively richer, you can buy more. That says buy. Let's try that again. I'm not getting the, uh-oh. This happened 2 videos ago too. All right. You can buy more of all normal goods. Right. Remember, normal goods are things that as your income goes up, you buy more of them. As your income goes down, you buy less of them. So most of the good stuff that we like to consume. But I highlighted this because it works in both directions. Now, you know what? I'm not going to be able to change. I can't erase. I can't change the color of my pencil. That's unfortunate because this cool color stuff was handy here. But it works both ways. If the price of something that you buy regularly, a good or service that you buy regularly, goes up, you are effectively poorer, and you could buy less of all normal goods. Works both ways. And my classic example for this is gasoline, right? We know from our discussion of elasticity that our demand for gasoline is fairly inelastic, at least in the short run, right? In the short run, we buy about the same amount of gasoline no matter the price. Now, over the long run, we figure out better substitutes. But in the short run, there aren't many substitutes, and we're still going to drive to work. We're still going to drive to school, right? There are lots of places we'll still go, so we buy a lot of gas. So when the price of gas goes, let's say, up, for many households, that means, well, we still have to buy a lot of gas, or we still have to buy, a similar amount of gas, but we spend a lot more on gas, and so we feel effectively poorer. And so maybe we don't eat out as much. Maybe we don't buy as many new electronics. Maybe we don't, save as much for our retirement, right, as we think of something else we could do with our money. So when the price of the gas goes up, we feel effectively poor, and we buy less of all other normal goods. On the other hand, when the price of gas falls, at least if the price of gas falls and you're not entering a worldwide pandemic, right, we feel effectively richer, and we can buy more of all other goods. Right? So if the price of gas falls and you use a similar amount of gas, then all of a sudden you're like, wow, we can afford to do some other things. Maybe we'll all go to Seabreeze, early in the summer. Maybe we'll do something else fun. Maybe we'll buy that, new lawnmower I've had my eye on. Whatever it is, you can buy more. That is the income effect. So the income effect, the substitution effect has to do with relative price changes. It says basically you substitute away from things that are relatively more expensive towards things that are relatively cheaper. Here's the relatively part. This relative price, it really think opportunity cost. All right, so think opportunity cost. It's not gonna change for me yet. Oh, you gotta be kidding me. Now it's not even sliding. What happens if I close it and open it up again? Now it doesn't slide either. Okay, I'm gonna shut this off, and the last video will be super short, but we will pick up separately so I can get this